Obama put out his budget this morning, a week late, and $1 trillion short. You'll be shocked to hear, ladies and gentlemen, Obama's budget actually increases spending. I know I was shocked when I saw that. Well, based on what he's said in the past, if you take him at his word, at what he said in the past, this is outrageous. His budget increases spending, and there are only two areas where there are spending cuts in Obama's budget, which is DOA. It's not going, it's a total fantasy. It isn't going anywhere. You wonder why even put this thing out, because it's just going to get slapped down. Even Democrats are slapping it down today. But the two areas where the Obama budget has real spending cuts are in defense, and just found another cut. That's the Postal Service. Obama's budget proposes cutting back mail delivery to 5 days a week. Now, you may think, big deal, Rush. That's not a big thing. Nobody gets real mail anywhere. Wait a minute. That's not going to be a very popular budget cut. How many Americans rely on government checks? How many of Obama's constituents rely on government checks? It's a big number. Now, I don't know. I really don't know this. I'm embarrassed. I have to ask. Does the government mail out checks anymore? Or they direct deposit? They're both. Okay, so the people who do receive checks, this is a cutback. It could have an impact, minor, but at least it's possible. According to the new Obama budget, the national debt will be $1 trillion higher in a decade than previously forecast. Now, he usually gives his budget some kind of name. His first budget was called the New Era of Fiscal Responsibility. I kid you not. I don't know what he's calling this one. Maybe Occupy America. Maybe this budget is Greece, too. Have you seen what's happening in Greece? But you have to wonder why they even bother to print this thing, this budget. It's a fantasy. Everybody knows it's deader than dead on arrival. Harry Reid won't even allow it to be voted on. He doesn't want this budget to see the light of day. He doesn't want anybody to even see this. You may have forgotten last year Obama's budget was voted down in the Senate 97 to zip, and that wasn't even an election year. So I don't know why they bothered to put this on paper. You would think they'd want to hide the evidence. Now, 3 years ago, Obama promised that he would cut the deficit in half in 3 years. Let's go back to the audio sound bites. This is February 23rd, 2009 in Washington. This was during the open of the Presidential Fiscal Responsibility Summit.
We cannot and will not sustain deficits like these without end. Contrary to the prevailing wisdom in Washington these past few years, we cannot simply spend as we please and defer the consequences to the next budget, the next administration, or the next generation. And that's why today I'm pledging to cut the deficit we inherited by half by the end of my first term in office.
Now, I know what some of you are saying. Rush, every politician lies about stuff like this. Why in the world are you wasting time with this soundbite? The reason I'm not wasting time, the reason I'm re-airing this is because it's an illustration. And remember what the avowed purpose of this program is to, aside from the business aspects that have to be met. Once you get past those, if those don't happen, the rest of this is academic. Once you get past those, if I had to express this program in the form of a mission statement or what have you, it would be to create a large, participating, voting, informed public. Real change happens at the ballot box, and the change at the ballot box that happens as a result of an informed, sizable voting public is real. It's substantive. There is mandate attached to it. Now, I don't think that's idealistic at all. That's, in fact, how this was all intended when the country was founded. It was also understood by the founders that not everybody would be participating, that not all voters would be informed. That's why voters didn't elect the Senate. in the founding of the country. It was well understood by the founders that there'd be a bunch of ne'er-do-wells or people who didn't care, people who'd rather watch the Grammys than learn about what's going on in the country. And going back to 2008, the presidential campaign, remember how Obama portrayed himself. Remember how he was portrayed by the media. Messianic. We had never before seen a politician like this. Someone who told the truth. Someone who was capable of uniting all the people, all the various divisions in the country. Somebody who was going to restore respect for America around the world. Somebody who was going to get rid of all of the traditional harangues that take place in our political culture. Of course, what's happened is we have the most divisive president in our lifetimes, the most partisan president in our lifetimes, and we have a president who couldn't tell the truth about the budget and spending to save his life. And so it's important to go back and listen to him promise all of these things about budgets and spending, because he's running a campaign this year that is the equivalent of him saying, I've not been in the White House yet. Nothing that's happened, taken place, have I had anything to do with. He's running a campaign, in a sense, that's going to replicate what his 2008 campaign was. The last 3 years happened, but he had nothing to do with it. That's going to be his approach. That's why it's important to go back and listen to this stuff. As more and more people start to get interested in this, the election year, as more and more people start to pay attention, as more and more people want to start measuring past promises, past projections against reality. The one thing that has to happen here is this election must be about Obama. I don't care who our nominee is. This election must be about Obama and what he has wrought and what the future portends if he's reelected. And there again, the budget deficit I inherited. This man has spent already the budgets of 2013 and 2014. They're already spent. The entire federal budget. That's what his deficits have equaled. That's how they've added up. And I want to also tell you what I said in response to this. The day Obama made this pledge, February 23rd, 2009, I, your host, L. Rush Limbaugh, said this.
Everything I heard him say is a lie, or sounds like a lie. Everything I heard him say is the exact opposite of what he has done or is going to do. He then, after giving this lecture on pay-as-you-go, don't spend what you don't have, and we're making great progress towards responsibly living within our means. He then, and this is how community organizers work, he then released the group in the East Room into their breakout work-study groups. He said, I want you to not only identify the problems, I want you to come up with solutions. I want you to talk to yourselves about the problems and about the solutions. I want you to talk to people in other breakout groups. I want you to talk to me and my team. And then, the best part of this, report back later this afternoon with your results. So, to set the stage here for you, Obama convenes this summit, this fiscal responsibility summit. Everybody in the room knows that everything he says to them is jaw-dropping, incredulous, unbelievable. Then he dispatches them to their work groups. And at the end of the day, they're supposed to go back and report the solutions. So do you realize, folks, in 3 hours, Barack Obama will have solved the nagging problem of fiscal irresponsibility? It's going to be fixed by, 3 hours and 20 minutes at 5 o'clock. By 5 o'clock Eastern time, the problem is solved.
That was the game being played. Breakout study groups, that happened a lot in the first 6 months of this regime's first term. And it was all for show. It was all on television. Remember, this was the Messiah who'd just been elected. I mean, the media was still having on-air orgasms. And Obama was being covered practically 24/7, at least during the business day, nonstop on the cable nets. And all this was seen. So these people out to their breakout groups come back, solve the problem. And people in the hinterlands, okay, problem's going to be fixed. I can forget it. It's all, finally we got a guy that's going to fix the problems. Okay, well, it's 3 years later now. And it's time to remind everybody, problems are worse and getting worse, and there's no end in sight as long as he remains in the White House.